Hey people. Doctors pen open letter to Daniel Andrews to scrap the lockdown bill. This was a day ago. Sadly, that obviously didn't work because, as you see, I put up a video where it shows that the bill passed by one vote. There's always that one fucker, right? But anyway, 13. But it's good to see. Anyway, it's good to see that 13 of Australia's top doctors don't agree with what's going on. And it kind of gives me a bit of hope, because when I was hearing about 1,000 German doctors coming out, standing up, I was wondering, where were the Australian doctors? You know, the people depend on you. They go to you to get not just advice, but they go to you to be treated. A lot of people trust you. I personally don't, but a lot of people trust you. And for the fact that more doctors aren't coming out against all of this, it truly saddens me. It saddens me. It makes me sad, because I know that my parents were two people that thought that the sun shone out of their doctor's ass, even though he killed both of them, right? Through not having them tested for certain things and for over-medicating another. But many people are like that. They depend on doctors. They think because they have that paper in that wooden frame on the wall that it makes them gods. Like I said, I have no faith in you, but a lot of people do. So it's good to see at least 13 doctors, at least 13 of Australia's top doctors, okay, came out, penned a desperate open letter to Victorian Premier Daniel Andrews, urging him not to extend the state of emergency. Well, we know that that's already happened, okay. The Victorian senior medical practitioners said they were deeply concerned with the state government's management of the COVID-19 pandemic. The letter was sent to Mr. Andrews' office on Monday with contributions from urologists, psychiatrists and surgeons. In the open letter, the doctors say extending the state of emergency could destroy Victorians' health and suggest an alternative medical response be considered. The purpose of this letter is to make you aware that not all medical practitioners are in agreement with the Chief Medical Officer and the Victorian Government regarding the most effective way to control this disease, the letter begins. We believe that an alternative medical response is required that reflects what we know about the spread of the virus, those who have died from it, and the impact that the stage 3-4 lockdown restrictions are having on the physical and mental health of the general population. For the sake of people in Victoria with other medical illnesses, it is vital that stage 4 restrictions be lifted on schedule in mid-September. The doctors say it is their professional opinion that the stage 4 lockdown is lifted after causing unprecedented negative economic and social outcomes and negative health outcomes. They are asking for the state of emergency to be lifted on September 13. The state of emergency not be continued past the 13th, with an agreement made for Parliament to be allowed to open discussion and debate appropriate medical plans to manage the current COVID-19 virus. A panel of non-politically aligned medical and health-related experts be selected by a partisan parliamentary group to provide the transparent and active role of informing and advising government decisions and responses to the epidemic. Specialist referral from GPs had fallen dramatically as people are scared they would catch the virus if they leave the house, the doctors wrote. Well, yeah, no, I'm staying away from doctors because I don't trust them. I don't want them to say that I've got something that I know that I don't have. Because of this, patients are getting poorer diagnoses, which the doctors noted is happening to people suffering with cancer. We now know that whilst COVID-19 is highly contagious, it is of limited virulence, the letter says. We are told that since March 2020, 565 Victorian patients have died either with or from the virus. This compares with annual Victorian deaths of approximately 10,000 patients with cardiovascular disease and 11,000 with cancer. Accordingly, the COVID-19 deaths are a relatively small proportion of the 114 deaths per day that are normally seen in Victoria. In comparison, since the start of March, COVID-19 has been associated with 3 of the 114 deaths per day. Most of the 565 deaths have occurred in nursing homes, which, according to doctors currently working in this environment, have described causal factors related not only to the virus, but to other care-related issues, including isolation, loneliness, and related diminished nutritional intake. Like I say, who's going to be held accountable for all those murders? Box Hill Hospital urologist Dr. Jeff Wells is leading the push for the lift of restrictions and hopes that the letter will make a difference. Sadly, mate, it didn't make one bit of fucking difference. Because, like I said, bull on a red flag, don't know when to stop. Don't know when to stop. There are no brakes until somebody takes him down. I mean, look at any bullfight. He'll keep going until he's taken down. When I see my patients and I ask them how they're coping, the number one response is the sadness at not being able to see their grandchildren for 3, 4, 5 months. The mood of the population has changed dramatically in the past 2 weeks. There seems to be one half that is getting angrier and angrier, and the other half which has just lost all hope. These policies are affecting the general psyche of the community. We just want to have significant input into this response instead of a blanket approach that is harming the general population. Victoria recorded just 70 new coronavirus cases overnight, the lowest increase in 2 months, with another 5 deaths, and yet he extended it by 6 months. Tuesday morning's proposing case total in Victoria was announced as Fuckwit comes under increasing pressure to end Victoria's economically crippling stage 4 lockdown due to end on September 13. Mr. Andrews on Tuesday told reporters the roadmap, screw what he says. Screw what he says. I don't even want to read it. The open letter from doctors to Premier Dan Fuckwit. We, the undersigned, are senior medical practitioners of various specialties who practice in Victoria and are deeply concerned with the Victorian government's management of the SARS-CoV-2 COVID-19 viral pandemic as a public health issue. The purpose of this letter is to make you aware that not all medical practitioners are in agreement, which we read earlier on. The disease, we believe that an alternative medical response is required that reflects what we know about the spread of the virus. For the sake of people in Victoria with other medical illnesses, it is vital that stage 4 restrictions be lifted on schedule in mid-September. This letter details our concerns and recommendations. We are ready to offer any assistance we can to help create and implement a revised, effective and just response to the Victorian situation. To this end, we would be pleased to meet with you at your convenience to discuss the matter further. Obviously, he wasn't up for discussion considering he pushed his bill through and then extended shit for 6 months. Focusing on the numbers of cases of COVID-19 is at best an unsophisticated way of looking at disease management. Factors such as the side effects of any policy, its cost effectiveness, the quality of life years lost, and the cost per life saved are fundamental when considering disease management. In addition, any policy to manage any disease must be reviewed in light of new data. We believe that the government's initial response to handling COVID-19 via a stage 3 lockdown to flatten the curve was reasonable in view of the limited information available at the time on the outbreak in China and the alarming number of deaths in Italy. The initial response, though arguably excessive, was still highly effective in preserving medical capacity and allowing time to coordinate a full medical response, with the community accepting that the social and economic consequences were reasonable and for the common good. However, we now know that whilst COVID-19 is highly contagious, it is of limited virulence. Whilst an accurate cause of death of a person can be different to determine, we are told that since, I already read that to you guys, compares with annual Victorian deaths of approximately 10,000 patients with cardiovascular disease and 11,000 with cancer. Accordingly, the COVID-19 deaths are a relatively small proportion of the 114 deaths per day that are normally seen in Victoria. Most of the 565 deaths have occurred in nursing homes, which, like I says, pretty much related issues including isolation, loneliness, related diminished nutritional intake. However, in Victoria we have had 541 less deaths this July compared to July last year. 3,561 deaths compared to 4,102 deaths in July of 2019. In Australia last year, 2019, in the month of July alone, we had 71,000 new laboratory confirmed cases and a total of 313,000 laboratory confirmed cases of influenza for the year. This is only a fraction of the actual total cases of influenza, as many go untested. In August 2017, we had 99,000 new laboratory confirmed cases of influenza and a total of over 250,000 cases for the year. During 17 and 19, influenza resulted in 25 to 30,000 hospital admissions and up to 2,500 ICU admissions across Australia. 3% of hospital admissions were pregnant women and up to 18% were under the age of 16. The deaths from influenza each and every year is between 3,500 and 4,000, according to the Australian Influenza Specialist Interest Group website and the Australian Bureau of Statistics. This is despite recent excellent rates of vaccination in the vulnerable population and millions of vaccinations utilised each year. The vast majority of deaths associated with COVID-19 have occurred in frail people over 80 years, many of whom also had significant comorbidities. In Victoria, more than 73% of known COVID-19 deaths resided in nursing homes, 381 out of 524 and 30 out of 52 in New South Wales as of August 30. For people who are physically well and under 60 years of age, the mortality risk is extremely low. Contrary to what you have said, Mr. Andrews, the virus does discriminate. See graphs below. Since June 2020, the death rate has risen sharply in aged care facilities where the risk of transmission of COVID-19 has been unacceptably high. However, the government and the doctors advising it have not reviewed their policy in order to focus on this vulnerable segment of the population. Instead, stage 3 and 4 lockdowns for the whole community have continued for no apparent scientific reason. Well done. As medical practitioners, it is our collective experience that patients are presenting later to us with their medical complaints. Specialists' referrals from GPs and indeed GP workload have fallen dramatically due to patients' reluctance to leave home in fear of acquiring the virus. As a direct consequence of this delay, many will have poorer prognosis. This has especially been the case with consultants who treat cancer. A study in the UK estimated that extra 4,000 deaths from not screening the 4 main cancers alone and not from lack of treatment. In addition, it is our professional opinion that the stage 4 lockdown policy has caused unprecedented negative economic and social outcomes in people, which in themselves are having negative health outcomes. In particular, it has caused or exacerbated depression, anxiety, and other mental health issues, as well as contributed to domestic violence through an extreme and unjustified disruption to family, social, and work life. Job losses, homeschooling, the isolation of the elderly and single people, and the restriction on the number of people who may attend funerals are but few examples of how the government's current response is harming the health of the general population. In short, the medical, psychological, and social costs of the lockdown are disproportionately enormous compared to the limited good being done by current policies and are relevant factors to be taken into account by any responsible government. Proposed amendments to the Public Health and Wellbeing Act 2008 Victoria. We further note with much concern that the proposed amendment to the Public Health and Wellbeing Act that would effectively allow the government to continue its current policy to manage COVID-19, even if there were to be 0 cases over a period of time. This is unfathomable and certainly contrary to the objects of the Act, which require accountability, proportionality and collaboration to be fulfilled. Specifically, the legislation explicitly mandates that the government's decision on public health initiatives must be transparent, systematic and appropriate, with members of the public given access to reliable information in appropriate forms to facilitate a good understanding of the issue. In addition, the legislation acknowledges that decisions will be enhanced through collaboration between all levels of government and industry, businesses, communities and individuals. Recommendations. For all these reasons, ordinary sensible people properly informed should inevitably conclude that the current government policy is ill-focused, heavy-handed and unjustifiable as a proportionate response to the risks posed by COVID-19 to the public's health. As the virus is not going away soon and an effective vaccine may not be available for a considerable period of time, if at all, we respectfully call upon the government to do the following. Thank you for your time in reading this letter. We look forward to your early response. It says here, read more, but I might end up, I'll leave a link. This is a second, I didn't want to hit the read more thingy just in case I lost the actual page. Here is a second, I will leave links in the description for both of these thingies, but this is the actual letter that I just read out to you. Open letter from doctors to the bull at the red flag, or bull on the red flag, as you can see. Say, I could have been your doctor. There you go. There's the list. Urologist, transplant surgeon, orthopedic surgeon, public health physician, emeritus professor, general practitioner, respiratory medicine, psychiatrist, general surgeon, orthopedic, gastroenterologist, orthopedic surgeon, psychiatrist. Now, if these people are saying this, okay, if these people are saying this, what does that tell you? What does that tell you?